All right, this is part 3 of our look at imperialism, and our focus here today will be looking at the Industrial Revolution and the new desires that were created due to the Industrial Revolution. These new desires are in Europe. So, the Industrial Revolution, in short, began in Britain in the late 1700s and was the result of harnessing steam power, so the use of water and heat to create steam allowed for mechanization on a large scale, like what you can see here. So prior to, we'll take textiles because that's what we see in this image here. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, the finest cloth is coming out of India. And that had been the case for millennia. India was one of the first places in the world, in fact, to do so. Roughly 5,000 years ago, we have records of it at Mohenjo-daro, which is now in Pakistan, part of the Indus Valley civilization. Herodotus wrote about the Greek historian Herodotus wrote about Indian fine cotton clothing in 445 BCE, saying, quote, "The wild trees bear fleeces for their fruit, surpassing those of the sheep in beauty and excellence, and the natives clothe themselves in cloth made therefrom." We have records of that prior, right? Of that at that time. And then we see this confirmed, if you will, by the European traveler in the 13th century, Marco Polo, noting 900 years later that the coast of Coromandel in southern India had, quote, "the finest and most beautiful cottons that were found in any part of the world." 600 years after that, Edward Baines of London, a cotton expert out of Leeds, wrote that the best of Indian cloth might be thought to be the work of fairies or of insects rather than men. They were, in effect, webs of woven wind. So India, along with Peru and Mexico, are really the centers of cotton clothing, cotton textiles, until this time. Now, things change with the Industrial Revolution. So, sorry, I just want to say that this, the quotes that I was reading to you were from a great book, if you're interested in pursuing this further, called Empire of Cotton, A Global History by Sven Beckert. Beckert's out of Harvard. So, let me continue on back here. So what are British people wearing at this time prior to the late 1700s? Because cotton is rare in Britain. Linens made of flax and woolens, and not a lot of them. I mean, these are handmade. You may own very few items of clothing, but the Industrial Revolution and mechanization, as you can see here, allows for clothing to be made at a grand scale and quickly. So in the 1830s, Lancashire makes the cheapest textiles in the world, and that's new. And it could be imported back to India at anywhere between 12 to 100 times more cheaply than its Indian equivalent. So where this cotton is coming from is the so-called New World. And so it's imported across the Atlantic to the towns of Lancashire and Manchester in the north. What this leads to is a move from family industry to professionalization, to factory work. Now, what the Industrial Revolution does is far more than just cotton, as we'll see in a later lecture. It leads to the mechanization of all kinds of things, rubber, for example, and later we'll see things like steamships, weaponry, trains. The Industrial Revolution is important for many reasons, but for our look at imperialism, it's important for these three reasons. If you have a big factory like this, you can make a lot of money if it's running, and it can run 24 hours a day. But if it's going to run 24 hours a day, and if you look at these, the picture at right, for rows and rows, you need a lot of raw materials. And if you don't have lots and lots of raw materials at a reliable level, then you're not going to be able to run your factory, and you're not going to be making the profit that you could. So one of the desires that was created out of the Industrial Revolution is reliable access to natural resources. Again, natural resources is something that comes out of the ground, and that can be fruits, vegetables, minerals. The second thing that was, or second desire, I should say, that was created out of the Industrial Revolution in Europe was the desire for new markets for their manufactured goods. Of course, we'll use the example of textiles. Textiles are sold to people of the British Isles, but after a while, I mean, how many shirts do you need? So one of the goals is, okay, who else can we sell to? Who else can we sell these shirts to? We've sold everybody in London. Who else can we sell to? And if there are 300 million people in India, as there were around this time, that's 300 million people who could buy shirts from you, who currently, at that time, were buying shirts from Indians, not from British people. So new markets, that is to say, new people who will buy their manufactured goods. The third is new sites of investment for financial capital. These industrialists are making lots of profit, lots of money. Now you could store it under your bed, metaphorically speaking, but a better way to make more profit is to reinvest it in something that creates more profit. So there is a desire to find new sites, new locations, if you will, for investments of financial capital, and that can be through war capitalism in the construction of weapons and ships, but it can also be in other forms. And these three new desires will inform imperialism. As we'll see later on, imperialism really is a function of a desire for profit foremost. It is about money first. Personal accrual of money first. There are other pieces that motivate imperialism and justify imperialism or sought to justify imperialism, but it is about profit and money first. Okay. Let's hold it there, and we'll come back in our fourth section looking at how was Europe able to imperialize in the 18th century, and how could it justify.